Released by Fully Ramblomatic in 2006 on the PC, Trilby's Notes would be the third game of the Chzo Mythos series. Written and directed by creator Ben Croshaw, also known as Yahtzee of the Zero Punctuation Review series, the game would be a direct sequel to the first game, 5 Days a Stranger. For story, the game features the return of Trilby, now a special agent, as he investigates the aftermath of events from the first game. For gameplay, controls would now shift to text parsing as the main means of interacting with the environment and solving puzzles. The story only gets larger from here, so let's cut it down to size with a recapitation. As the game begins, it's the year 1997 as we see Trilby, once a cat burglar, is now a field agent of the Special Talent Program, or STP. He reflects on the fateful time of the 1993 Defoe Manor incident, where the survivors did not easily return to their lives. Jim was expelled from his boarding school for truancy. Simone took to alcoholism, ruining her broadcasting career. Even Trilby's mind would keep hold of a darkness that haunted him, unsure if the spirit of John Defoe was ever truly put to rest. Jumping at shadows, his anxiety would result in him getting caught by authorities 2 years later, but the government would offer him an alternative to a prison cell in the form of the Special Talent Program. Taking the deal would be another couple of years when he heard disturbing rumors of Simone's worsening mental breakdowns. Knowing he may or may not be a welcome sight to her, he decided to try reaching out. Visiting her on a warm and stormy night, Trilby enters her apartment and is immediately shocked to see Simone's freshly murdered body. He notices she was slashed by a large weapon and likely by a large assailant, and though he contacts the authorities, he is relieved of duty as the primary suspect of the murder. However, the Ministry of Occultism investigates Simone's apartment and deduces it was actually supernatural activity. Reinstated, Trilby is now assigned to the case with the purpose of investigating if this death is connected to the Defoe Manor incident, but Trilby himself does not enjoy the idea of facing the nightmare again. Since the incident, looters have raided the remains of the mansion, discovering the wooden idol that housed John Defoe's soul, and sold it. Though no murderers followed the trail of people directly handling the idol, that didn't reassure Trilby as he would reach out to Jim and tell him to go into hiding just in case. The idol's trail leads him to a historian professor named Abid Chahal, who is set to appear at an antique fair in a hotel. When Trilby arrives, he is greeted by a man named Lankman from the Ministry of Occultism, who shares the Ministry's concern someone so personally involved with the case is handling it, and so as a precaution, he has been assigned to the case as well. Lankman insists they conduct separate investigations, but will still be keeping an eye on Trilby as he goes on his separate way. As Trilby checks into the hotel, he happens to run into Professor Chahal, and with a cover story gains his trust to get closer to the idol. Chahal introduces Trilby to his assistant, an Irish woman named Siobhan, and as they chat, Chahal shares he's surprised any artifacts from Defoe Manor survived the fire at all. Though morbid memories resurface in Trilby the more they speak about the incident, he stays collected and asks about the idol directly. The professor notes the idol holds very little actual value and is currently being kept in the hotel's safe. He also retrieved a landscape painting from the house and has given it to the hotel to hang in its lobby. Distracted by the thought, the room suddenly flashes into an otherworld scene, with the word Chzo scrawled on the wall and a pale figure in black standing before him, but it would seem only he saw this vision. Excusing himself from the conversation, he leaves, head spinning, but even after he leaves the room, the visions of the otherworld do not leave. Sensing these are no mere visions, Trilby explores further, truly finding himself in a hellish version of the hotel, and learning he is not the first to see the demon in black. From some notes, he finds this hotel may actually be crossing over from another realm, as such a thing apparently started occurring around July 28th. Thinking about the situation, his first reaction is that this must be John Defoe's doing, but Trilby senses this isn't his style, and more so not within his ability. As he explores, more and more imagery of a pale, slender man in black presents itself, as he is surprised to find a note addressed to him. Reading it, it's from Lankman, who warns him this is an alternate dimension, and one's emotional state may alter reality here. Fear, for example, leaves one exposed to whatever evil that dragged them there. Lankman urges Trilby to focus on finding Defoe as he researches the phenomenon, and leaves him a bottle of tranquilizer pills. Taking one, Trilby finds his anxiety lifting, and he is suddenly back in normal reality. Though the pills do leave him seeing infrequent hallucinations, he slips behind the hotel lobby front desk and finds a safe with the idol in it. Cracking it, the safe is surprisingly empty, and as he wonders this mystery, his eyes are drawn to the painting done by Matthew Defoe that miraculously survived the fire as well. Mesmerized by it, he feels compelled to touch it, and in doing so, is suddenly transported to Defoe Manor on July 28, 1821. Today is Matthew Defoe's 15th birthday, and he puts the finishing touches on a painting even his father has recognized as good, whereas normally Roderick Defoe discouraged his son's artistic interests. His father would introduce him to Mr. Smith, a scholar on African tribal art, yet even he cannot deduce the exact nature of the wooden idol. Roderick explains he found it in the wreckage of a ship called the Sea Angel ran aground off the coast of Africa, wherein its crew had just simply disappeared. As Matthew gets a drink for the guest, he passes through the kitchen where the gardener's blacksmithing mask hangs on the outside of the door to the cellar, where Matthew talks to the boy banging on the other side. After some words, he chooses to slip his finished painting under the door so the boy may see it too. At this time, Roderick's temper flares up once again as he throws the scholar out after hearing the only tribe the idol could have come from died long ago and thought it might have been a forgery. To calm down, he now demands to see the painting Matthew finished, but the boy confesses he gave it to the boy behind the door, and Roderick's anger rises to a quiet rage. Later, from his room, Matthew hears a strange noise and goes downstairs to investigate, seeing the cellar door is now open. Within, he sees his father beating a boy he's never seen before with the wooden idol, but for a moment the figure changes to that of the pale man in black. Snap back to reality with a startle from the professor. Trilby asks if he's heard of a ship called the Sea Angel, and the professor mentions there is actually a chisel with the name Sea Angel on it among the items that survive the manor. He also collects a page from a suggestively religious book mentioning entities such as the king, prince, and bridgekeeper. Wanting to get a closer look at the artifacts and the fair in peace, he sets off the fire alarm, though this sets off a fiery alarm of its own. Seeing other unpleasant reminders of the manor, such as the rocking chair and manacles, Trilby spots the chisel in question. Reaching out to touch it, he finds his mind taken back once again, this time to July 25th, 1789. He sees a once proud African warrior named Mabuta, who lost everything when he was sold into slavery, but once he caught an illness, he was thrown overboard and was adrift in the middle of the Atlantic. By some luck, he would be found and saved by a passing ship where the crew was kind and against slavery. As 3 days pass, Mabuta wishes to thank his rescuers by carving him an idol of his tribe's god of good fortune. Passing by the O'Malley shipping crates he used for wood, he emerged when completed to be horrified by the sight of everyone on the ship brutally murdered by a pale man in black before he would swiftly kill Mabuta as well. Snapping back to the present, Trilby is puzzled by the ghoul that keeps reappearing, but now knows the figure of the idol has nothing to do with it all, but perhaps the wood it was made with does. Thinking of the name he saw on it, O'Malley Shipping, he moves to ask Shaban about it, who shares the same surname, and notices another strange scripture page. Reading it, he catches the pattern that the victim mentions here parallel the victims in real life, and their order is counting down to something. The professor and Shaban remark how there is no hotel staff anywhere for some reason, and the student also confirms her family did once own a shipping company in the late 18th century. Making some pointed queries of her own, Shaban figures out Trilby's true identity and purpose here, and offers to help, but for her own good he refuses. As agitation rises in him, the scene changes to the other world with June 28th scrawled on the wall, and Shaban is replaced by the ghoul. Trying to get away, he kicks the man, but this turns out to be Shaban again as he knocks her out cold. Though unintentional, he takes this opportunity to examine her notes, learning one ship allegedly was carrying a haunted crate. What more, the crate itself has a history of being crafted from the wood of a destroyed harpsichord belonging to a man named Jack Freehorn. Again, Trilby experiences a vision, and this time it's the home of Jack Freehorn on July 28, 1778. Jack was known to have an interest in the occult and bought this harpsichord because its keys were made from the walls of the Unicorn Inn, made famous by mysterious and morbid events that surrounded it. That night, Jack was waken up by music emanating from the instrument and investigating is shocked to see a pale man in black that he actually recognizes playing it proficiently. He shoots at the demon only to find he kills the possessed body of his friend instead. The demon reappears and repenting, Jack falls to his knees, begging for mercy from the Dark Ruler. Jack would indeed be spared, and as Trilby returns to the present, he sees another note that Jack would go on to lead a pagan cult, and another page conveying that it was Freehorn who would spread the teachings of the Tall Man. Knowing he needs to find out more on the Unicorn Inn, he speaks to the professor, who explains he actually has a shingle from it in this fair as well. Uncanny a coincidence as it is, Trilby reaches down to touch it, and again he flashes back to the past, this time July 28, 1581 in the Elizabethan era. He sees Owen Somerset, a traveling merchant, taking shelter in the Unicorn Inn from a storm. However, the innkeeper curiously refuses to allow him to stay, saying this inn is cursed and built from the wood of a fallen oak his father found that had bones around it ominously. Apparently, ever since, the inn has been a curse on their entire bloodline. Owen doesn't believe in the tale and insists on staying anyway, though that night a smell pierces the air that wakes him. Seeing smoke, he goes downstairs to see the innkeeper himself immolated on the floor, but his shock is brief as the tall man appears behind him to quickly execute Owen. Returning from the vision, Trilby thinks of his new lead and surmises the very island this hotel is on has been the source all along, but has no clues beyond that. He receives a note from Lankman to meet him on the roof for a new lead, and reads another page about the innkeeper being the next victim. As Trilby's hallucinations grow stranger and more skeptical, he finds the professor has become irritated enough at the situation to shift to the other world that would not last long, as the detective would find his decapitated body. Reassembling a macabre key to open the way forward, Trilby makes the silent, hill-like climb up to the roof and sees only a piece of paper under a rock. Reaching down to claim the rock, he experiences another flashback where it is July 28, 1501. A carpenter downs the biggest oak tree he's ever seen, and his son Boyle notes the tree seems to be growing on a foundation that may have been someone's house. Suddenly, the tall demon would appear and slaughter the father, during which Boyle picked up a stone and threw it at the demon. Striking it, the demon indeed paused and simply left, and Trilby is sent back immediately, but into the other world. He is surprised to see Siobhan there also on the roof, confused but alive. Knowing he has to make the last leg of the investigation on his own, he hands her the pills to return her to the normal world to save herself since he doesn't need them anymore. Looking at the letter Lankman wrote him, it's a note to meet him in the basement now, and the final note in the Book of Victims with the first one, the woodcutter. Entering the hole he finds, he observes reality here is constantly shifting between the normal and dark world, but at its center is the tree stump remains of the tree Boyle and his father cut down that started it all. Touching the stump, Trilby is once again given sight of events of the past, this time July 28, 55 BC. A Celtic druid named Cabadath finds his home and island under Roman invasion. Wondering if his radical magic can help, he mentions to his friend he has had dealings with the ethereal realm, showing him he has learned of powerful demons and elementals. There is one demon even the others fear, the pain elemental, and it is he whom Cabadath intends to summon, as it is invulnerable and feeds on the agony of others. On this day, in fact, the boundaries between worlds is at its weakest, and the druid feels he can not only succeed in calling it, but bending it to his will. Calling out to the beast by its true name, Chzo, the demon steps out of the eternal darkness to peer into their world, but as Cabadath turns to bind it, it snatches him and pulls him into its dimension. Cabadath is not killed, as Chzo is a pain elemental, so it does not kill its prisoners as it feeds on their suffering instead. As Cabadath's agony was especially pleasing to Chzo, he granted the druid an immortal body and placed his soul inside an oak tree that grew on the site of his old home. For centuries, he would provide anguish for his new master, and his tortured mind would fall into soulless dementia. Snapping back from this revelation, Trilby is surprised to find Siobhan still here, and Lankman now enters, confirming the stump is the vessel for the soul of the tall man, who they now know is Cabadath. He also confirms when Roderick Defoe killed John with the idol, it placed the soul of John inside the wood alongside Cabadath's, and from there John gained new power. Chzo now had a means of blending magic and technology to make him the bridge keeper and be able to connect their two realms so that Chzo can cross over into this world. Lankman reveals he knows this because he is actually a member of the order Jack Freehorn created 200 years ago, called the Order of Blessed Agonies, and was never part of the Ministry of Occultism. Jack also wrote books of prophecy that so far have all come true, including mentioning John Defoe and Trilby. Trilby's role was to guide the Bridge Keepers to his destiny, and he has yet to complete the task, as the body, mind, and soul of John Defoe must be destroyed, and Trilby only destroyed the body. It was also Lankman who left behind passages from the scripture to help Trilby understand the prophecies were real. Lankman then quickly stabs Trilby, who falls down on the stump, and proceeds to tie up Siobhan, telling Trilby he intends to summon the tall man here. As Trilby lies dying, the Acolyte begins trying to summon Cabadath, so Trilby tries to do the only thing he can to stop the ritual when the tall man appears, and that is dying too early. Upset at this sacrifice, Cabadath instead claims Lankman, though on the twilight of death a figure appears before Trilby, telling him to go back and complete his duty. Tired of it all, a resigned Trilby just wants to stop, but the figure says he is fated to live, and events have already occurred in the future to bring the figure to him so that he lives past this point now. Leaving now, the pulse of life resumes again for Trilby, as he wakes to see Siobhan relay that Lankman was taken by the tall man and just disappeared. Noticing his waistcoat is gone and spotting the wooden idol still there, Trilby tells her to wrap it in clothing and take it with them, as an ambulance is called and reality no longer shifts. As the game ends, a recovering Trilby sits across the wooden idol, writing a report that the STP crew came and cleaned up the mess with the hotel. He accepts that he died, and yet came back to life, and while he wants to burn the idol, knows he cannot. He recalls that the destruction of John Defoe's soul would actually help the Order summon Chzo, and refuses to let them win. He settles on hiding the artifact somewhere no human could ever find it, signing off his notes and dating it July 29, 1997. At the same time, members of the Order confer that events have been set in motion that cannot be stopped, as Kabadath walks in with the upper torso of Linkman in one hand, speaking for him that they have the blood of the guide from Trilby's bloody waistcoat, and all they need is to wait and prepare. Trilby's Notes is free, so go download it, enjoy, and donate to the creator, worldwide.